I'm gonna say this, and then I wanna be done with this whole conversation. So for people to come at me and say that I made those comments because I'm a racist, first of all, black people can't be racist, but that's the farthest thing from my mind. I grew up in a very small West Texas town, predominantly white. My best childhood friend is white, went to predominantly white. College, won a national championship, pretty much everyone on the team was white. We're sisters to this day. That's not a part of my DNA. But for me, it's very important though that, I'm a black woman, you know?
In this round, here's Quanell X.
Charles, former WNBA legend and former Houston Comets legend Cheryl Swoops made some remarks in regards to a current potential legend in college basketball who plays for Iowa, I believe, Caitlin Clark. She criticized Caitlin's style of play. She criticized Ms. Swoops, criticized her accomplishments on the court, and she began to speak about the differences of what the generational difference in the game. When she played the game of basketball, it was a lot more physical, and a lot more physical play was allowed to take place on the court compared to what happens today. So when she said Caitlin's not averaging the same amount of points, she's not as aggressive, not as physical, she was even wrong when she spoke about that, and was wrong when she said about her having an extra COVID year, and she has not done that at all. But the blowback she's received about criticizing Caitlin has caused her to be called a racist. And many have taken to social media, white people, and called her a racist. Why is it if a black former athlete who is a Hall of Famer criticizes a current player that is not black but white, all of a sudden she's a racist? White sports commentators have been criticizing black male and female athletes for generations in America, but yet no one dared call them a racist. She went on to say, Ms. Swoops, that no black person can be a racist. Well, what she was saying was that no black person in America has the power to inflict institutional discriminatory practices on white people like was inflicted upon black people for as education, banking, finance, none of that. Politically, none of that do we have the power to be that kind of racist. What she's really saying is what many black scholars have said, no black person could be a racist with no power.
Let's get it very clear because, I love what you say. Well, she said this, but what she meant was this great grand thing, not this really small thing that she said. First of all, I was surprised. I'm a big fan of the Comets. I saw them live a few times when they existed right here in Houston. I was a big fan of Miss Swoops. It looks like she's been off the court for a long time. But let's be honest, right? Whenever you hear anyone, and usually it is white people, going back to their childhood bona fides to excuse being a bigot, you know where it's going. I grew up in a neighborhood of color as a small child. My best friend in elementary school was a kid named Chris Harper, right? Black kid. One year, me and him played the Wright brothers in the science fair, all right? But you're never going to hear me say, oh yeah, this horrible bigoted thing I said was okay because I had a black friend back in the day, or I have black friends now, or I grew up in a black neighborhood. No, that's just trying to justify your racism. When you say black people can't be racist, that is one of the biggest lies of the last 2 decades. If you feel a certain way about people just because of the color of their skin, you're a racist. I don't care. You can talk about empowerment theory, you can talk about institutional, you can talk about systemic, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about Cheryl Swoops, and make no mistake, she told a slew of lies about Caitlin Clark, and this is the business that Cheryl Swoop is in. She said she took an extra year. She said, in fact, when she shoots more shots a game, she actually shoots half the shots that Swoop said shot to set her mark. She beat her. She broke the record. Now, I'm not a big Caitlin Clark fan, right? Because I don't decide whether or not I support someone based on the epidermis, based on the complexion. I'm an LSU guy, and I love Angel Reese.
Does
but Cheryl
her criticism
no,
make her racist?
When you refer to white people as they or them, when you only criticize somebody
No,
because
she
they're white.
spoke about that
Okay.
once she started being condemned and being called a racist, Charles. You have men like Bob Costas, who was criticizing
plenty of
black
racists.
athletes for generations as a sports commentator. No one's ever called him a racist.
It comes
Remember
down-
legendary Howard Cosell and how he criticized Muhammad Ali?
Hey, look over there.
Was he a racist?
We were talking about this subject, but let's talk about this
But
subject.
you cannot be a racist because you criticizing somebody
the subject
in the
at
very
hand
field
is,
that you played
was
in and was a
Cheryl
legend.
Swoops. Cheryl Swoops goes on Gilbert Arenas' podcast. We're just the week before, I think the week before.
And I'm not a fan of his podcast
They
at
were
all.
talking about how they need to get white European players. They are openly advocating, openly criticizing, treating white basketball players holistically, talking about them holistically, and being a bunch of bigots. We've seen a number of sports journalists recently talk about Jokic, talk about Luka, and talk about white players generally as how they are this bad thing. Now, I'll tell you right now.
There are a number of white Americans who are openly advocating for the NBA to go and pursue more white European players because they want the NBA and WNBA to be more racially diverse.
Hey, nobody cares.
Millions of
Nobody
white people
cares.
feel that way in
You know
America.
what? You know what? No,
that's not true.
There's no head coach that cares. There's no owner. You know what? Everybody cares.
That's
you
not
know what,
true.
You know what everybody cares about in the NBA?
You're going to say
all
winning.
The owners?
You're going to say winning.
We're
and
talking
making
about
money.
the best team.
But let me tell you, sir, they want to have more European players, white players in the NBA because their number one market with fans is majority white, not black. But the league is majority black. So why wouldn't you, as the owner, want to have more reflection of the fan base on the court? They want that. And
So,
it's not just basketball.
I know,
it's football, it's baseball.
But here's the question at hand. First of all, who cares unless they're great? My top 5 players all time, all black. Right?
Well, you ain't got no choice.
What are you talking about?
What white guy you going to throw in there?
Well, people could argue Larry Bird.
People who?
People could argue Jokic.
Larry Bird, who
people
couldn't fly.
could argue a plenty
You
of
couldn't
players.
put a penny on
but
his
the
feet when he
truth
jumped.
is,
He
and
was a
I
hell of a
said
player,
my
though.
favorite.
He was a hell of a
But
player,
I'm not
though.
talking about
A
the best
great
players.
player.
I'm talking about
But
my favorite
he's
players
not
are all
that top-
black.
he's not that Mount
Because I
Rushmore.
don't. Hey, my favorite player is not even a top. The best player of all time, Jordan, obviously.
Now, see,
my
you wrong
favorite.
again. See,
Dude,
you
shut
all
up.
the Kool-Aid and don't know the
My
flavor.
favorite player, Allen Iverson.
LeBron James.
Allen Iverson, my
LeBron
favorite
James is
player
the
to ever
greatest
watch.
NBA
Allen
player
Iverson
to ever
is
lace
the
up his
most
sneakers and
exciting
play on the
player,
court.
period. Right,
But
period.
Cheryl Swoops is not a racist. Just because she criticized Caitlyn,
if you have to say
white people can't
my
get
white
upset
friends,
and
then
say it.
you're a racist. Because if a white person has to say my black friends,
She
then
was
he's a racist.
speaking to those racists who was condemning her
No.
and calling her to be a racist.
She was justifying
because
her racism.
white folk don't want nobody
Can black people be
criticizing.
racist?
Say
Can
what?
black people be racist?
Black people cannot be racist.
Okay.
They can be prejudiced. They can be ignorant.
why not?
They can be ignorant. They can be prejudiced. They can be bigoted.
By what?
But they cannot
by
be a
by
racist.
White, oh, yes, they can. By what definition?
You cannot be a racist with no power.
What are you talking about?
Black
You ain't got no
folk don't
power?
control not one power institution in America
So,
to inflict
hold on.
discriminatory practices
So,
on the masses of
Does
white
it- is
people.
this-
We don't
is
have
this
that power
all
today, and we've
black
never had
people
it.
Or just some black? Because Obama, could he have been a racist? Because he was the
No.
most powerful man in
No.
the world.
No, he wasn't. That's a lie.
Oh, Jesus.
Obama was the biggest black manager over the biggest white man's store.
Okay.
That's who he was.
All right.
He was the manager over
Okay.
white America. He was a black man living in the White
So
House
what is
who
your
answered to a
what
white
is
Senate
your
and
definition?
answered to a white
What
Congress.
is your definition of racism?
Racists are racism.
Yeah.
See, racism and racism.
I knew you weren't going to give me an answer.
No.
Racism is if you judge somebody by the color of their skin.
Racism can
Don't you
be
do that
having
crap all day.
bigoted statements and beliefs about someone with different skin color. But racist, that's a different story.
No. A racist is someone that judges somebody by their skin color.
A
And
racist is one
you're a
who
racist.
carries out those
You know, and
practices
what I love about
and
you,
inflicts discrimination
what I love about
and
you
discriminatory
is
practices
you love,
on people of color.
You love to say, oh, you're in the Klan. You got
Cheryl
no
Swoops,
basis. You don't hear me talking
Sister,
about black
you're not
people
a racist.
holistically.
Your condemnation of her was wrong, but you're not a racist.
You know, I don't know if Cheryl Swoops is a racist. I know Quanell is.
God bless his heart.